the easement, it seemed like they didn't want to give us the easement, so we said, if they don't want to give us the easement, let me see if I could get my cars out of here, my trucks, which there is enough room. Again, it's a safety issue. We closed this area because, you know, it's not safe to come out of the driveway and you have the sidewalk here. You can't see
And there's
pedestrians
cars
walking
parked,
by.
right.
So we closed that just to, you know, we could use this, our cars, but, you know, we don't want to make a safety problem, you know? So we closed it on our own terms and, you know, but we can use it, but we don't want to because it's a safety thing. So, you know.
You had indicated that you were going to alter the lighting, but never took it any further. Would you please describe what you intend to do?
Right. We would like to put lights on the front of the buildings for safety issues too. You want to keep everything light. And then in the rear, there actually is a motion light here attached to the building facing.
Where is here?
On the back of the masonry garage, facing the yard. So basically, if anybody comes into the yard, it's a motion detector and it lights up basically pretty much the whole yard.
So you're talking,
What about between the apartment and the masonry?
Between the apartment,
So closer to Mars Avenue.
yeah, they can hear this alleyway.
Well, for the parking spaces.
Oh, yeah.
So if your residents are gonna park there and they come in at night, is there proper lighting?
It's a good idea. We don't have it yet, but it's a good idea, yes, to put some nice lighting for the tenants.
Okay, so would you be opposed to a condition for lighting?
Not at all.
I think, Mr. Dex, you did answer this, because I'm just looking at the view of the parking spaces behind 266 and 268, and you believe with the residential plus the additional commercial, there are enough spaces in the new projected, in the lot.
I think there's still some questions to be answered about that.
Because I can't figure out how it fits.
There's still some questions I think we gotta hit before we get to that point.
Now, you indicated that you could use the area between the two buildings to exit. Has anyone or you, since you've been a tenant and since you've been an owner, used it for entrance?
Yes, I have.
And is it for entrance to get into the parking lot, or is just entrance to park in between the two buildings, or both?
For both.
Do we have any idea, like, how much foot traffic goes back and forth?
A lot, yeah, there's a lot of stores there, and, well, there's gonna be a lot when across the street gets done, you know, so.
If you use it for parking, is there sufficient room for a car to get around it?
If you look,
No,
The 9 feet?
it'd be tight.
if you look at the rendering, it's actually a Google Street View, so there's an actual car there. The rendering is not a fake car, that's a car that's parked there, so you can get an idea, although the perspective is a little off because it does narrow.
Like a fire truck fitting.
No.
Even a regular passenger vehicle.
Yeah, well, and I think the view here is a little bit deceptive too, in that it looks like it's some sort of like Toyota back there, but it's wider at the point that the car is parked. It's actually narrow at the entranceway. I think it's 9 feet at the closest part where the building's.
Well, wide enough for a second car to get around, looks to
No.
me to be.
No, no way.
No, it's only 9.
No way. It's 16 feet wide at 16 and a half feet at the widest point, meaning, there's no way.
And it goes down, you believe, to 9 feet at the entrance, or at the.
Correct.
Just to be clear, the only other point of ingress and egress is the municipal lot that you've been talking about with the easement that you want.
That's the lot that goes next to the Chinese restaurant?
No,
Yeah,
It goes behind Duffy's Corner. You go through
Duffy's
Duffy's Corner and
Yeah,
around the back.
but I mean,
Yeah.
with the Chinese restaurant
Correct.
to its left as you
Correct.
enter.
oh, yeah, the traffic light, yeah.
Yes, that's on the corner.
and you cannot get to your parking area on the other side, which is where the churches are when where the Domino's is back there where they built, there's no.
No.
Now, in terms of the colorway, the dark gray and the black, you indicated your wife may be talking you into a different color scheme.
Yeah, right.
Can you flesh that out a little bit more as to what your alternate, or your wife's alternate vision might be?
Yeah, a little lighter color.
You're gonna stick with the gray, correct? Maybe lighter gray?
Yeah, a little lighter gray.
And I'm just looking, being familiar with Morris Avenue, I mean, there aren't too many buildings with a more gray toned building. They're more like red or brown brick based. Can you talk about the rationale as to picking gray, even if it's a lighter color?
It's my preference. I mean, I'm not really, if she thinks she likes the beige, better. If it goes with the street, I'll do beige. I mean, I don't really, it's not my main concern, I got other problems here.
Understood. You have another approval to get, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, no.
Now, just to be clear, across the street is still the Gomez property. Can the experts or someone tell the board, me in particular, what color that's supposed to be, if anyone has any?
It's matching the rest of the dentist office.
It would be, I'm going by memory, there may even be a exhibit in the next room, but it would have a mixture of light and gray with a lot of articulation of exterior ins and outs and color changes.
With all due respect, Mr. Disco, I have no idea what that means.
I would need those exhibits.
Yes, sir.
I just pulled it up on our town site.
So just by looking at it, it looks like it's white, assuming it's accurate, it looks like it's like white, off-white base with some gray and some brick.
I'll paint it whatever you want me to paint it. It's whatever.
In fairness, the new windows and any exterior color change, I think, would be well received. The buildings certainly could use an exterior spiffing up, to be technical.
Back to the parking, would you be opposed to a condition for dedicated spaces for the residential units? Because I'd like them closest to the building. I don't think that the residents should be parking where there's very minimal lighting in the back.
So, with regard to the existing commercial spaces, you would want them moved further to the back. Do you have any committed in the lease that where you've committed to where your commercial tenants can park?
No.
So, if a condition of approval was that the commercial tenants on the first floor park is further back and allow the residents to park closer to the building, you have no objection to that, correct?
No problem at all.
Chairwoman Cohen, I feel like we're passing over a question that I'm eventually gonna ask, so I don't, you don't mind?
Please do.
Jump in. Right now, the existing conditions plan that was submitted with the site plan shows compacted stone, open area in the rear lot. If you look at a Google Earth view of the lot, which, may not be accurate if it's not to date, I didn't have a chance to go to the back of the lot to go see it, but it appears that the way the contractor is, and I'll ask a question of the applicant, it appears that there's multiple tenants. It's not just one landscape contractor back there. There's multiple tenants back there. It just seems the way the lot is divvied up right now, not in any permanent way, although there are storage bins, kind of you would see in a landscaping yard or at a nursery, where some of the parking spaces are on the right side of the rear there. So I think the question I want to ask of the applicant is, what is the future proposed rear lot look like as far as the landscaping tenants and how they interact with proposed parking spaces? Because right now, the site plan shows 30 new parking spaces in the rear. It shows them striped as if the lot was going to be functioning that way. What I heard from the engineer was that's not the case. it could be 10 spaces, whatever they need to achieve, basically the parking for the front building, maybe to avoid a variance or just to, you know, provide the appropriate parking. But my concern is really, that's not what is being proposed. 30 new spaces striped on the exterior, on the perimeter of the rear lot is not what's going to happen, unless I'm wrong. I'll ask the applicant, what is the scheme of the contractors in the rear yard gonna look like?
Well, if we don't have enough parking behind the buildings, I mean, we have 16 parking spots there, I believe. Okay, there's 16 parking spots there. Is that not sufficient?
13 now, 16.
So there's four apartments, so each apartment will get two spots.
So the requirement is 22 spaces per the township ordinance. What I would recommend is if you're just providing parking for the sake of meeting the ordinance requirements, it may not be the most prudent thing to do if there hasn't been a well-thought-out plan for the rear yard, or if it's gonna remain the same. If the proposal to the board is that the rear yard is gonna continue to function as it is today and not be changed, then fine, just make that clear, and then seek the variance for the parking. You're providing 16 in the front portion of the site, 22 are required, that's just by the ordinance. What I would like to see, frankly, is that the site plan show what's proposed in the rear yard, whatever that may be. If it's 2 parking spaces that the residents are gonna use, if it's the landscape contract yard as it exists today with the separate storage bins on the right side where there are parking stalls kind of marked right now in the site plan, fine. But right now I think it's a little deceptive to the perception of that the full back lot is portion of the lot is gonna be parking spaces, because that doesn't seem to.
Okay, so let's hash this out. Do you intend to pave and stripe the rear of the lot?
Yes, for the 9 spots.
I think, Ed, Frank, come up here.
No, we would agree with the board's recommendation to add the additional stalls that the board planner had recommended. But beyond that, we would leave the driveway and the parking area as it is, only because there are certain environmental issues that we don't want to disturb that.
So are you saying that you intend on adding 6 spaces to make up for any potential deficiency?
Yes, or if the board's willing to give us a variance for those 6, we would do that too. But if not, then we would put the 6 in the area as close to the entrance driveway as possible. On one side, and then just leave everything the way it is.
To the left of the rear lot?
Correct.
That would be your 6 spaces?
Right.
And you would leave the rest of the rear lot open?
Right, and I believe this area here is, I think the asphalt is in fairly usable condition, whereas the rear area is just broken stone.
And we're also looking, Madam Chair, that, you know, hopefully in the near future, we're going to enter into a dialogue with the town. They're gonna tell us either we have an easement and we can use the rear yard, because if they say no, then his plans for that rear yard will markedly change, and he'll have more than enough parking for the remaining uses that he have. We, again, he can tell you what's there now. His plans are sort of in flux based on the township's decision, whatever that decision is going to be with regard to the access easement. If they deny that, or whatever plans the township has does not include granting those properties access, then you'll have to adjust accordingly and come up with either a different use or, you know, curtail whatever you're currently doing.
Right, but Mr. Goodman, as you said, and you indicated, we're talking about the residential and mixed-use portion, which requires 22 spaces. So regardless of what happens with the easement, you either have a deficiency that you're seeking relief for, because there's only going to be 16 spaces in the front area, the lot area closest to Morris Avenue, or you are agreeing to stripe for 6 spaces in the rear portion of the lot.
So, Carmine, will you be willing to stripe for the 6 spaces in the back, so that you have the full 22 for this, yes, of course. So we will not be requesting a parking variance.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you tell me where the entrances, where the entrances are for the various tenants, the upstairs people?
I mean, where they come into the property, the doorway?
Yeah. If they park in back, are they entering in the back, or are they walking through that narrow easement area to Morris Avenue?
Yeah, there's a staircase in the back, and then there's a front door. There's 2 front doors in each building.
But there is an entrance from the back.
There is.
And what security lighting is there for the easement area, if you want to walk through to enter through the front from the back?
Yeah, motion lights and we're gonna
In
be-
the easement area? Because I don't think you testified to that before.
Do
Has not. He will,
do you mean the area between the 2 buildings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I plan to provide lighting in the alleyway, the rear of the building, the front of the building.
Okay, no, I thought you did not testify
he
to
did
that.
not. Your question has,
But he's answering it now.
yes.
Yeah.
So I still have questions about the rear portion of the lot. I do appreciate that we've clarified that you're seeking to put the 6 spaces, but again, what is depicted on the site plan is not how it is actually operating, and I need to have it clarified that, is there a gate currently, a locked gate for security purposes for the rear portion of the lot?
There is a gate.
Is it utilized and locked every day?
Yes, yes, it is.
And for the proposed 6 spaces in the back, is that gate going to be removed? And the lock going to be removed so that the spaces can be accessed by residents, not landscape?
Yeah, we would have to reconfigure where the gate is and the new residential parking spots are. We have to configure in.
I think the site plan is probably gonna need to be revised. I appreciate that we're doing this on the fly, but again, I think these now is becoming an engineering question, I think. The site plan really needs to be updated to show these things, to show the 6 spaces, to show the current contractor sections, to show the storage bins, because now the function in the back of the site is changing dramatically. The circulation of the site is changing from what's shown on the site plan. I also have some questions about the use of some of these accessory structures. Who utilizes the masonry garage? How is it accessed? It's on,
I currently use the masonry garage.
you use it for storage purposes?
Yes.
Okay. Is that in relation to the existing buildings along Morris Ave, or is that is it accessed from the rear portion of the site? Like, where is the access point to the garage?
Access to the municipal and to the front of the building if I need to.
I mean, where's the door to the garage?
The door to the garage?
Yeah.
Left side.
Yeah, left side.
Are there parking spaces currently proposed along where the door is to the garage?
Yeah.
There are 4 spaces.
Oh, yeah, not for the door, yeah.
You can get through the door on the left side there, okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Currently, there's a lot going on, even in the front of the site. My suggestion would be that if the garage was unnecessary, that you could make the parking lot in the front, you could fit more spaces and make it a lot more uniform as far as the drive aisle. Again, the number of spaces, I think you could have parking on either side. You could probably fit all the spaces you need in the front if that garage is not necessary. But if it's, that's up to the applicant.
I mean, image 4 from Catherine's report shows 2 bay doors on that masonry garage. So we're proposing 3 new parking spaces.
Basically up to the left, to the uppermost door,
Yeah.
right in front of the other garage door, it looks like. And And then I think if the engineers, if going back to the plans, I'd like to see the dimension between the corner of the spot 13 and the corner of the proposed spot along the garage, the bottommost spot. I just don't know what that width is. It looks pretty narrow, maybe 10 feet, maybe 11 feet.
To confirm, is there lighting in that rear, lot?
Yes, there is.
There is, okay.
Currently, there is. There's a spotlight,
Yeah. Okay.
motion, like a motion light.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, they will.
Question for you. When you had purchased the property in 2020, were you in any discussion with regards to the area of redevelopment?
No.
So I guess I'm looking at when they provide the lots that were part of redevelopment, and his lot is included in the report from 2015.
There's a lot, the whole down, pretty much the whole down.
But his specific lot is mentioned, so
Is mentioned or is not?
is.
Oh, well, larger.
Yes, that was gonna be my question. So what did they do? They designated block and lots, and
Yeah.
then they're adopting plans for various
Yeah, so,
parcels? So the
How redevelopment
plan is not
works.
adopted for lot 10?
so how redevelopment works is that the redevelopment study can either be condemnation or non-condemnation. Condemnation meaning it's a taking, meaning, the township would be taking the property as part of redevelopment. Non-condemnation, which is how this study went, basically designates the property in any future scenario if the developer, or the property owner wanted to offer their property for something, a redevelopment plan could be contemplated then, for a number of lots or for that specific lot. Across the street, the Gomes property was done as a redevelopment plan for the properties at that. And then down on Church Mall, there's another redevelopment study, so there's a handful of them happening piecemeal pretty much. But there's no comprehensive redevelopment plan for the entire downtown currently.
Okay, so even though his lot is mentioned, doing this work does no category, okay.
The redevelopment is basically, until there's a plan in place, it's really just a designation that reserves the right to move forward with the redevelopment plan in the future.
But the property's in a redevelopment zone.
Redevelopment area.
Okay.
Redevelopment area.
Did you know that?
No.
Okay. I think we were still on questions for the witness from the board. No further questions from the board. I'm gonna turn it over to our professionals for any additional questions.
As far as the use variance goes, the statutory criteria between a D1 and a D2 variance, the proofs required are a bit different. The D2 variance is strange. A lot of boards don't come across it. A D2 variance is a pre-existing non-conforming use that was legally created, so not created by variance, so someone didn't get a D1 variance and they want to come back and expand it. What it does require really is proof that the use existed at one point according to zoning or prior to zoning
Or
ever
prior to
existing.
zoning.
Prior to zoning ever existing, some proof of that, deeds, whatever. And then that the zoning changed over time, which pushed it into nonconformity. Generally, because it does require that standard, I, oftentimes ask the applicant to provide some of that evidence, as cumbersome as it may be, because to make the proof that it is an expansion of pre-existing nonconforming use. If you can't establish that it's pre-existing nonconforming, there was anecdotal, I think, testimony related to that the prior owner had been here for, 80 years and had utilized it as this way and had utilized it as an apartment, but without any evidence, generally, the standard proof then falls to a D1, to a use variance, that there can't be a proof that it was a pre-existing nonconforming use. I did bring that up in my memo. I don't know if Mr. Goodman wants to respond to that, but I think we're probably looking at a D1 variance based on just the anecdotal evidence, unless something else is provided. Oh, okay, we'll address that, okay. And then I think, the rear portion of the lot also, I think, isn't expanding, but I don't know if it's ever been permitted or approved by any board. So I think there's probably a question about that rear property, the rear portion of the property being utilized as a landscape contractor yard, and whether that calls into question another use variance for that portion of the lot. So those are two kind of planning issues, I think, at hand right now for the board to decide. And I'll let your planner tackle them as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and outdoor storage and accessory structures are prohibited in this zone, non-residential zone. No doubt that the landscape operation has been going on for a very long time. That's not what's new. What my concern is we've added a trailer in the last decade. We've added storage bins. I don't even know if we had the opportunity to confirm that. Do you know when the bins were added? So they're showing, again.
Before I own the property.
Before 2020, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going by Google Earth, maybe 2016, 2018. We've added 2 structures. We've added an unknown, still to this day, we don't know who is parking back there. That would be helpful. We've asked for that. Again, when you expand or intensify the operation with the access issues, it's a concern. Where are we heading with this? I'd like to know what's the truck inventory? Mr. Santarella's trucks may be of a certain size that accommodate certain exits, and other trucks may not. It's true that during COVID, the municipality did, at the request of Mr. Santarella, and it was a very real problem. The angle to go into his property was very cumbersome when the outdoor dining executive order came into being, and on their own property, Sophia's placed the tent. All the three properties back there adjacent to Duffy's all have some behind the building area that even when the Sophia's tent was going up, we asked, do you have cross-access agreements? Because there's actually lot 9 as shown, has to go through lot 8 or the municipal lot to get out from the rear of that property. So we didn't want a tent going where the cross-access was. And none of the 3 buildings there seem to have any idea of what the cross-access amongst themselves were, let alone to the municipality. So again, a lot of intensification without the access being clarified in any way. And so my concern is not only are we adding apartment use, residential use in conflict with other uses, non-residential use, I don't know where everybody's parking. The gate is there. I don't get to the back of that site because I can't access that gate. I don't know how a commercial establishment, which could be open at night, is gonna realistically park there, or we would want a resident there. And what we've pointed out in the memo, again, is the township committee has dedicated 45 parking spots at the conclusion of Gomes as they see fit to request them, that are gonna be either, it was originally only at Duffy's Corner. So we would have lost essentially 45 parking spaces there. There's a concern because of the flooding that some of the ones that are at the extreme north on the site would be inundated during flood things. So there was an understanding to expand where those 45 could go to the DMV lot, which we have permit lot. Now DMV less made it a lot easier. That's actually a municipal-owned lot. But there's still the potential that we could give up to 45 parking spaces from this lot. To do that, the access to all of these other businesses are gonna be greatly restricted. And the Gomes timeline right now is 3 years away. So there's just a lot here. And I just wish we had some clear understanding as to what's going on in the back, where everybody's gonna park. Certainly in an apartment use there, nobody's saying there wasn't apartment use there either. So those are my concerns. I don't know when, again, the trailer or the bins, that should have come before a board, and it didn't.
Mr. Santarella, do you have a yard master that handles the rear portion of the lot?
Yeah, it's my father in the back.
Do you have a list of the tenants, I'm assuming?
Oh, yes.
I think, in my experience handling contractor yards in other municipalities, there's always concerns about what is being stored. how much of it's being stored. If there's mulch, there's potential for mulch fires, for things, there's potential for different, combustible materials, things like that. So, part of the, conditions or part of how the board has handled, organizing that and understanding that better is usually by coordinating or creating some conditions related to the yard master producing, an annual report or a list of the materials that are stored, a list of the tenants, things like that. Again, I think this application as it came into the board appeared to be related to the residential use, and I think what Mr. Disco and I are saying is the board really needs to understand the rear lot as well and how it works as a function of access, how it works in conjunction with the proposed residential and mixed use, how it operates in respect to the circulation and the parking. I think it's a huge consideration as, and the gated nature of it, that it kind of operates as a separate lot right now and how that might change. So I think there are a lot of questions, a lot of questions about the rear lot. And I don't know.
I'm happy to answer the questions.
Oh, I
I'm
mean
happy to
more
answer.
so that the site plan doesn't show much information, and we've been talking about it. I think a lot of questions have been answered, but without seeing it, without having a plan in front of the board, I caution them to say that we have talked about them, but we haven't necessarily solved them because we've heard, you're very receptive, you're willing to make things happen, but I think until it's actually on a plan, we don't know where the gate's gonna be, because you said it's gonna get moved, we don't know where the parking spaces are gonna be. These are all things that I think the board, I recommend consider.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just open it up to the public. If there's any members of the public that have questions for this witness, please feel free to come up now. None. It is 8:30. We are going to take a 2-minute recess.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, we're back on. It is 8:40. Mr. Goodman?
Yeah, I would like to call Robert Hudak, our planner.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, give us your business address.
Okay, my name is Robert Hudak. My last name is H-U-D as in David, A-K. My business is Vanguard Planning LLC, and our address is 1208 3rd Avenue, Tumsor, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Mr. Hudak, you've been retained by Carmen Santarella with regard to analyzing the planning for this property.
Yes,
I ask you to give the board, well, has he been qualified? No. You've got to give your qualifications, I'm sorry.
yes, I'm a licensed professional planner here in the state of New Jersey in good standing. I've been qualified since 2014. I've served as ward planner in numerous municipalities throughout the state, including in Cranford, New Jersey, a number of years ago. I've represented clients throughout the state of New Jersey on a private basis before various boards. And like I said, I'm currently board planner in Toms River Township.
And your license is current, correct?
My license is current and in good standing.
Thank you. Members of the board, any objections to qualifying this witness as a professional planner? None, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Hudak, please provide your planning testimony at this point.
Sure. We're going to start off with the D variance relief as noted by your planner. NJSA 40:55D-70, D categorizes variance applications where approval is sought for a use that's not permitted in a particular zone as a use variance that requires an enhanced level of proof, including addressing the special reasons criteria and requiring 5 affirmative votes of the board. The special reasons consist of 2 broad categories, where there's a refusal to allow the project imposes undue hardship on the applicant, and or when the proposal advances the purpose of zoning outlined in the municipal land use law. Applicants must also meet the site suitability test by demonstrating that the site is particularly suited to the proposed non-conforming use. And in our case, we're seeking approval for the 4 residential units that will be in the 2 front buildings as the other witnesses have testified to. I'm going to first start with the D1 variance. As your planner said, I mean, reading her report, it talks about whether the existing uses are legal pre-existing non-conforming or just non-conforming, and it's unclear from the record as far as the limited amount of information I can have whether they are conforming or, were legal at the time. It appears they were, but I'll also argue under D1 and D2. So with respect to the D1 variance relief, applicants must demonstrate either that a hardship exists, as I noted, or that the proposed use in the site will serve the general welfare and is suitable for the use. In the subject case, I feel our proposal advances purposes A, which is about promoting the general welfare, E, promoting proper population densities, G, provide sufficient locations for a variety of uses in a town, and I, a desirable visual environment as outlined in the MLUL. Your master plan reexamination report talks about this particular, the general commercial zone should be expanded to include residential uses and properties with mixed commercial and residential uses. Doing this, the report opines, will help provide alternative uses for some properties that have vacancies and will provide additional customers to some of the commercial uses. Our development is a mixed-use development that meets this standard by providing apartments. Sorry, my computer just went out on me. By providing these apartments, we will be advancing this purpose as laid down in your master plan. One of the other goals mentioned in the re-examiner's report is providing walkability. And then users to our site will want to be able to walk about your downtown and will certainly utilize the proposed commercial use across the street that we've talked about. So this is a similar, a significantly smaller use, but a mixed-use project as well. That again will enhance your downtown and advance the purposes of zoning. And since it won't be significantly altering the facade, except in a way that will enhance, such as painting, adding new windows and other treatments, the use will be in harmony with the other uses in the immediate area has been testified to, which will promote a desirable visual environment, as noted in the MLUL. The applicant must also satisfy the site suitability test and demonstrate that the proposed uses are particularly fitted and particularly suitable for the site. Site suitability is concerned with why the location of the site is particularly suited to the use, despite the underlying zoning prohibition against the use, and/or which unique characteristics of the site make the proposed use particularly appropriate rather than a permitted use. As noted in the Price and Medji case, the site need not be the only site for the proposed use in the community, but rather that the site is particularly suited for this specific use, meaning that it's site-specific. As noted before, the master plan talks about the fact that these mixed-use buildings should be permitted in the general, in this zone. And additionally, our site provides on-site parking, like other sites in the zone, although I know parking could be a bit of a contention, as we've been discussing tonight. And there's no visible, observable change to the building that the general public would observe, except for the improvements that we've been proposing. So it's my opinion that the board can find this site is particularly suited for this particular use. Now, with respect to the D2 variance relief, again, as your planner opined, there is a different standard, if you will, noting that you have to find that these existing apartments were permitted uses that were existing prior to any changes in the zoning ordinance or the development of the zoning ordinance. So if you were to find that they were existing uses, it's incumbent upon the applicant to demonstrate that the expansion would not result in any undue hardship, or that the site can accommodate the proposed expansion. And as I've already noted, it's clear that the intent of the master plan is to have these mixed uses in your downtown. And also that we're not changing the footprint of the building or expanding. There's no visible expansion, so to speak, of the buildings anyway, that I feel that they can be accommodated. Again, the applicant has to also meet the negative criteria, demonstrating that the proposal can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance. As noted, this use or this proposed mix of uses is something that the master plan already mentions and should be incorporated into the zoning ordinance, although it's not for whatever reason. But clearly it would advance those purposes outlined in your master plan. And even though there is a bit of a conflict there, we feel that it does actually advance the purposes outlined in your master plan and in your redevelopment area as well. So there would be no substantial detriment. In fact, it could be considered a positive rather than a detriment.
Mr. Hudak, you've gone through the proofs with regard to the apartments on the second floor. With regard to some of the other potential use variances that may be triggered by this board's review of the site plan as per the professional's recommendation, do you see a rationale for a commercial storage yard, a rationale for the trailer, a rationale for certain storage bins that could exist on the property in relationship to how this whole property functions, et cetera?
Well, from the testimony tonight, it appears that some of these uses have been existing for quite some time. And these structures, if you will, or these elements on the property are part and parcel of those uses. So without those, if you will, those accessory structures, it's doubtful that the property would function in the same way it has. You know, if you have a landscaping yard, typically they need somewhere to store materials or they need to store equipment. They don't want to leave it outside. So it's practical that they would have some sort of storage area, storage space, storage garage, something like that on the site. So there's a practical reason for it. I don't, because you're backing up to, you know, first of all, you have the units in the front or the buildings in the front that block any kind of view to the rear of the property. That's one of the things we've been talking about. Additionally, it backs up to Route 78, so there's no neighbors per se like that would be impacted by these proposed uses.
Any questions from members of the board? Okay. I'll turn it over to our professionals. Thank you. Any members of the public have any questions for the witness? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Madam Chair, it appears from my hearing or listening that in order for the board to make an informed decision on this application, they need more information on the site plan. And so I would respectfully
Which might also result in more planning testimony, Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I respectfully request that we continue the application to the next available date. Gives us time to answer some of the site plan questions and perhaps resolve some of the access questions.
The next available date that we have would be the special meeting, July 11th. I don't know if that allows you enough opportunity or time. And then we have a regular on the 18th of July. I'm looking at your engineer.
Just how many days prior to that meeting do the plans?
At 10 minimum. At least 10.
I'll be away at the beginning of July,
So we're looking at August. What is our hearing date in August? I have it. The 15th. August 15th at 6 PM would be the following meeting that we'd have available, which seems to work for your engineer.
Mr. Hudak, does it work for you? Yes, it does. Does it work for you? Folks?
So, I just wanted to make it clear that since we started this application, it's been, I think, in November 2022. The current buildings were basically inhabitable. I mean, on the one building, the plumbing was leaking, the electric work was all outdated, the building was basically falling apart on the inside. So I had to vacate the current tenants, because it was just a mess with leaks and other problems. So I currently have two buildings that are vacant with no income coming in to me. So it's been a really a big hardship for myself and my family. I have 3 kids at home, and just every month I've been trying to get this thing going. I started in November and haven't heard an answer from the engineer here in months, probably about 6 months. And I'm paying my taxes every quarter. I'm paying my mortgage, and I still don't understand why my meeting got pushed back this long. And I don't understand why that it's been taken forever from the engineer and his people there to get back to us with an answer. It's been very tough for my family, and now you tell me that it's another 2 months that I gotta wait. This is gonna be a problem for us. We purchased this building, the property, because I did have my business out of the yard, and it just made sense for us to keep the property and the buildings. And we didn't think that it was gonna cost us this hardship when we purchased it. So I would ask you guys on the board to at least, sympathize with me in a way where we can get this thing situated tonight, without having me have to wait another 2 months for me to get this project going.
Counsel, are you sure you want to adjourn, or do you want the decision to be made tonight? Do you want to talk to your client first?
I would like that moment.
Thank you very much.
Because the engineer,
Special meeting,
the
being
engineer.
paid for by
Oh, we can't just, because it, right, his expert has to. right, well, I.
We would like to adjourn the application to
August 15th, 6 PM.
6 PM.
Madam Chair, you would ask for a motion to adjourn the matter to August 15th at 6 PM in this room, and then there would be no need for further publication or notice.
Is there a motion to adjourn this application 2023-10 to August 15th, 6 PM?
So moved.
Thank you.
We got to vote.
Vote.
We got to vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Motion to, any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.